Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good wherever you are, and welcome to another SNIA Cloud Storage Initiative presentation. Today's presentation is Customer Support through Natural Language Processing and Machine Learning, which is a pretty long title, but we're going to be talking about machine learning and AI and an application of it that is customer support based, and we'll see today how you can employ these technologies in your environment. Before we go any further though, just let me introduce a few things about the interface. As you can see, you've got in front of you a copy of the slide. You can see the slide, but you can also make the screen much bigger should you need to read any of the detail. And some of the slides are a little dense for the small letterbox opening that you're seeing at the moment. If you want to make it bigger, you can do so. It's at the bottom right-hand corner of the slide. If you just hover over that, you'll be able to click to make that larger. The other thing to recognize is that we've got a couple of things that you can do during the presentation. The first, you can ask us questions. There's actually a question button. You can leave a question for either the presenters or myself today, and we'll try and answer them as best we can during the presentation. Should we not get round to them, then we will answer them afterwards, and I'll point you at a blog at the end of this presentation where you can pick up the answers. They'll be posted there a few days after the end of this presentation. The other one is to get feedback. You can rate us, and there's a scale rating with a comment from 1 to 5, where 1 represents, I didn't think very much of this at all, to 5, great, more. And you can leave a comment. You can actually tell us where we did well and what you'd like to see in the future, because we take all these comments very seriously and take all this on board. So without further ado, we're going to move into the presentation, and today's presenters are, we have Ross Ackerman from NetApp. Morning, is it morning, Ross?
Yeah, it's afternoon now. Good afternoon, Alex.
Afternoon.
Yeah.
We're doing this internationally. We're all over the world, different time zones. And we're also joined by Robin Marcinak of IBM Services Watson AI. Hi, Robin.
Hi, Alex. Hello, everyone.
At what time is it where you are?
It is 2 p.m. in New York City.
New York City. So we really are quite spread out through the time zones. I'm Alex McDonald. I'm the SNIA CSI Chair, and I also work for NetApp, and I'm your host for today. So what does SNIA do? Well, SNIA is the Storage Networking Industry Association, and it has 170 member organizations from all across the industry, from networking companies to pure storage companies to companies that have storage and networking and compute and various cloud services. So there's a wide variety of industry-leading organizations that are members of SNIA. We've got 2,500 active contributing members to this, and we've got about 50,000 IT end users and storage pros that subscribe to our mailing lists and come to our website to get information on what's happening in the storage world. You can learn more by going to snia.org/technical. In fact, snia.org is the root of it, and technical is the overview of the technology areas that SNIA covers. We've also got a Twitter handle at SNIA if you're into tweeting, and follow us on that. So today's presentation, this presentation is copyrighted by SNIA and by NetApp and IBM, and there are no warranties. What does no warranties mean? Well, if you use the information contained in this presentation and something breaks, I'm afraid you're responsible for the breakage, not us. Unlike other presentations that we normally have, this presentation will not be provided afterwards. There won't be a copy of the slides, but we will be continuing the discussion on the blog, as I said earlier, and I'll give you a link to that as we leave the presentation today. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Robin to start talking about IBM Watson, and then we'll have a discussion about an application of IBM Watson, which is NetApp's digital support, a cheery chap called Elio that Ross is going to describe. And then we'll come back to Robin and talk a little about what's next for AI, where we're moving to with AI-type systems. So without further ado, Robin. Yes, Robin it is, isn't it? Yes, take it away. Start us off with a case for AI.
Excellent. Thank you, Alex. And again, hello, everyone. Before I jump into the content, I just want to introduce myself a little bit further so you understand my background. So I am part of IBM Services, specifically part of a group within IBM Services called Watson AI. So my role, my day-to-day job is to work with clients across industries, both within storage, electronics, and other areas that fall within that space, and partner with them to look at use cases and develop applications based on our portfolio of AI solutions. Many of you on the call are perhaps familiar with IBM Watson. That is our core offering around AI. And what I will be doing today is discussing a little bit further about AI in general, as well as the specific applications of what we have done for NetApp. So let me talk a little bit about the case for AI. I'm sure many of you on the call have begun to hear in the news, through Twitter, on LinkedIn, various news articles, a lot of information coming out over the last several years around AI, artificial intelligence, augmented intelligence, automation, cognitive. These are things that are becoming more prevalent in our industries, and there's a real reason for that. Today, as compared to several years ago, data is proliferating at a rate that is far outpacing our human capacity and our ability to interpret that data. At the rate that technology is evolving, it's simply outpacing what we as humans are able to, quite frankly, ingest and make sense of. But there is an opportunity for us to close that gap. And that is where really AI comes into the fold. AI gives us, as professionals within industries, as well as consumers, an opportunity to close that gap and begin harnessing all of that data and ideally creating new tools, leveraging that data that allow us to improve our own day-to-day jobs and hopefully then improve the outcomes that we all deliver to our respective enterprises. Now let me speak a little bit to that AI acronym. You'll most likely think of that as artificial intelligence, but I like to think of it a little bit more as augmented intelligence. What we are doing is helping professionals do their jobs more effectively. And we do that by interpreting, analyzing two types of data. That could be structured data, which is what we typically know or consider to be data existing in tables, in spreadsheets, in databases. It's data that is structured, typically easily understood, and it's data that we can make sense out of with typically what we would consider traditional analytics. Now on the flip side, we start thinking about unstructured data. Now unstructured data is what we also call dark data. That's information that exists in unstructured text. It's information that you could have about your suppliers, your customers, internal to your organization, that exists not in tables, not in databases, but rather in presentations, in documents, in contracts, in RFPs. This is information that exists that up until recently we could not really do anything with. And AI really helps bridge the gap with unstructured data. It's understanding what we can do as professionals to begin to extract the insights, extract the data that exists within that unstructured data that up until recently was dark. It was not anything we could really take any insights from. Okay. Hopefully you can all still hear me. I'll keep going. So, how does IBM deliver our AI applications and our AI services to the marketplace? And how do we do this for NetApp? Well, quite simply, it's through the IBM Cloud. Our IBM Cloud, I'm sure, or I expect that many of the folks on today's call are at least familiar with. I personally am not part of our IBM Cloud team at IBM, but I certainly know the applications of AI that we are able to deliver. And what I'd like to do is focus here on what it is that we specifically took advantage of and typically leverage on the IBM Cloud to deliver these types of AI solutions. So looking at the very top layer, we're talking applications, solutions, and services. Now, on the IBM Cloud, we believe that we have applications here that really take advantage of all the data and all the expertise that companies like NetApp would like to place on the IBM Cloud. And specifically here, we look at all the way on the right side, if you can see it with the small text, a Watson virtual agent. You'll hear more from Ross today about how we built out an application that today is a virtual agent offering assistance, troubleshooting help for their technical support organization. Now, how do we do that? We do that leveraging our AI services, which are a big foundational to our architecture on the IBM Cloud. These AI services can vary depending on the application, depending on the use case, but specifically here, and what you'll hear more about shortly, is an AI service called Conversation. Conversation is our offering around conversational chatbots, virtual agents, AI solutions that allow you to interface in a natural language fashion with a virtual agent rather than with a human counterpart. Finally, data. Of course, part of every cloud solution, every offering, data is at the core. Again, you'll hear later today on the webcast how we took years and years of historical data that NetApp had available, took that, ingested it, fed it through the hybrid cloud solution leveraged in this offering here into the IBM Cloud to then extract insights and build out a virtual agent solution that is today now leveraged on a daily basis by both customers, partners, and internal users at NetApp within the support space. Okay. So, why use conversational assistance? Today, now that we've given you a high-level overview of AI and the offerings that are available, I want to dig a little bit deeper into conversational assistance. And the IBM offering around conversational assistance is something called IBM Watson Conversation. So all of you are likely familiar with the day-to-day interactions you may have both in your professional and personal lives when you are on a website or perhaps when you call in to a IVR system. You're familiar with, unfortunately, what is today sometimes a painful, slow interaction that is simply not very user-friendly. You may be on a website where you're chatting or you're looking for information and it's simply not easy to find, or you may be on an IVR system where you have to dial 00000 as many times as you can just to get routed to an agent. So conversational assistants are a way for us to begin bridging that gap. These are tailored solutions that are available both to enterprises as well as small to medium-sized businesses to start building out these cognitive-based or AI-based assistants that will converse and interact in a human-like fashion in natural language with end users. Now, I want to highlight a few key points around conversational assistants. First of all, you build these once, and these can be deployed across multiple platforms. So the core algorithm, the core functionality is something that you build once and can be deployed on a website, through a mobile application, on an IVR system, leveraging speech-to-text and text-to-speech functionality. But the core, algorithm, the core ground truth of these solutions is something that is built once and deployed through multiple channels. Second, you're creating natural language interactions with your end users. So rather than a typical press 0 or press 1 type of interaction that you may have on a phone system, or rather than a keyword search that you might have on a website, you now have the ability to interact in a human-like way with your customers, your partners, or your internal employees. And that is a truly powerful mechanism to walk users through a workflow, assist them in their day-to-day jobs. It's something that is more and more becoming commonplace in the enterprise. Now, the omni-channel experience, on today's webcast, Ross will speak in depth to that, specific to NetApp. But again, today, studies have shown user engagement, due to the expectations we now have in our personal day-to-day lives, there's now this expectation that we have that in our professional lives. That omni-channel experience means providing information, interacting with your end users through multiple channels, through web, through mobile, through social, through phone, through email, whatever it may be. And conversational assistants can help automate and augment those types of interactions across those various channels. Now let me talk a little bit about emotional states. Again, conversational assistants, our goal is to replicate that natural language, that human-like interaction. Today, AI is progressing, it's expanding, features and functionalities are consistently being added across the marketplace. Detecting emotional states is a way for us to react, respond to end users in a way that truly understands the customer, detecting whether perhaps they are happy, angry, sad, frustrated. Those types of key insights that we can extract from the language that users use allow us to tailor those messages, tailor the conversations, and hopefully, for example, in the support space, give them the answer that will be of most use to them. Now finally, let me just talk a little bit to the last 2 points here. Virtual agents, or chatbots as they're very commonly known, can be one of 2 things. They can be informational, or they can be transactional. Transactional means you're helping the user, for example, place an order, or perhaps submit an RMA, or accomplish a specific task. Informational is really more about, can I just help you provide some information? Can I be an advisor to you? At NetApp, what we've done, and Ross will speak to this, we've really provided a hybrid. We have an assistant who will provide information, assist the users, attempt to resolve the question, while also assisting the user in perhaps completing a case. So without further ado, let me move to my next slide here, and then we'll hand it off to Ross. Let's talk a little bit about some common use cases for conversational assistance, or Watson Conversation specifically. Customer service is by far the most common application of conversational assistance in the marketplace today. And it is also the use case that we will be speaking further about in detail a little bit later on this webcast. Customer service is really obviously all about providing customers with a fast, simple, straightforward approach to resolving a particular issue, question, or problem that they may have. I think everyone is very familiar with the concept of customer service. It is not always the most seamless or pleasurable experience. What we can do with conversational assistance and what NetApp has done, in addition to the transformation they have done internally, allows that experience to be a little bit more seamless and more productive. Conversational commerce is a second use case that is very common for these types of applications. This is all about providing guided buying experiences. So for example, if you are on a website, shopping, for example, virtual agents, chatbots are now available to users to provide recommendations, advise on perhaps a particular product based on previous buying behavior, or assist the user in selecting or finding the right product. These are the second most common use cases. And then employee productivity. This is very commonplace, or becoming more commonplace within enterprises to assist their own employees. This is around providing assistance, let's say, for HR-related questions or benefits-related questions. It's a way for users to interact instead of searching for information or contacting their HR department to, for example, chat with a virtual agent to assist them, provide that information to them, regardless of what the use case may be internal to that organization. So these are three common use cases. Hopefully these help to make the concept of AI and make the concept of conversational assistance a little bit more real. Of course, this is a very early, this is a new technology. It's something that has only been in the marketplace for 4 to 5 years at this point. But more and more, you will find that AI is becoming commonplace both within the enterprise, externally and internally. Okay. Last slide here. I actually forgot I have this one, but it is very important just to understand from a technical standpoint what it is that we mean when we talk about building AI applications. Imagine this entire solution here from interface to application is on a cloud. It doesn't need to be the IBM Cloud, but for this example, let's just assume the IBM Cloud. You have your interface to interact with your users. Today, we have the option of custom UIs integrating to solutions that are becoming more and more commonplace within companies like Slack or Facebook Messenger or Twilio or custom UIs. The applications themselves reside on the cloud, right? This is a hybrid cloud solution. That could be, in this case, a virtual agent. It could be another use case, another application. And from that application, you pull on other services. In this case, again, conversation service, you'll hear more about, is the core solution, the core service being leveraged across this particular implementation of a virtual agent and others that exist in the industry. Now, most importantly, is the integration to the backend systems that you see on the right here. I mentioned this is hybrid cloud. We're leveraging both a public cloud solution available, in this case the IBM Cloud, and then pointing back to key information, data sets, solutions that exist on, in this case, the NetApp Cloud. So with that, I will hand it back.
Thank you, Robin.
Alex.
I've got a couple of questions for you, actually, because my experience of Watson has been, I suppose, and what most people's experience has been of Watson is watching that program Jeopardy, where Watson was the smartest thing, and won. I think it won Jeopardy, didn't it? It actually won the whole against human competitors. My question is to do with language, actually. And so let me ask a question about the data. Let's say my data was in German or French, and I wanted to build conversational agents in Chinese. Is that possible? Can I go across language boundaries in terms of the conversational aspect or the data mining aspects of this?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So very, very good question. So generally speaking, these types of AI services, I can speak to the IBM services better, of course, than others that are available in the marketplace. Support multi-languages. Your typical, English, Spanish, German, French, Italian, Portuguese as your European languages, Chinese, Japanese, Arabic as your Asian and Middle Eastern languages. So there is broad coverage of languages, and it continues to grow and expand. Now, the question you bring up is an interesting challenge in that what do you do if you want to build, let's say, a conversational agent in English, but all of your, or let's say German, but all of your data exists in English.
Mm-hmm.
What we found to be most effective is actually translating the contents before training the conversational agent. Now, typically that means leveraging other services, for example, translation services, which exist today as part of the Watson APIs, as well as other solutions out in the marketplace. But the reason we typically translate before training the system is you want the system to truly learn from actual data in that language. Training a system in another language to then perform in a separate language will often lead to issues in understanding the real problems, understanding the questions that come in. So a system that is based on, let's say, a conversational AI solution will always perform best if trained in the native language in which it is going to respond.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's interesting. I've got a similar question actually when we talk about NetApp's use of Watson. I'll have a similar question for Ross, similar but slightly different. But anyway, without further ado, let's go over to Ross and talk about digital support and bringing Elio to life. Ross,
Great.
over to you.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Robin. Great introduction and kind of overview of IBM Watson. So hello, everybody. My name is Ross Ackerman. I work at NetApp, and I'm currently working in our digital support, customer support business. My job is thinking about customer support issues. That's what we do, and that's what our team does. And digital support is something we think about day in and day out. And our focus is making sure our customers get answers and resources in any avenue that you or they want as quickly and as accurately as possible. And that's really how our relationship came into play with Robin and the IBM Watson team. Was we looked at a business challenge we had, and it was focused on digital support. And kind of this slide talks about that business challenge we had. And the business challenge we looked at was, how do we grow as NetApp as a company grows and our portfolio continues to grow from all-flash arrays through the converged infrastructure, hyper-converged infrastructure, into the hyperscaler cloud and cloud volume solutions. As we grow our portfolio, that vast amount of information that our support engineers needs to know continues to grow as our portfolio grows. And we have very large spikes in demand depending on what customers are doing and needing. And so as we looked at this challenge to make sure we're giving accurate, fantastically great services as quickly as possible, we know we had this business challenge to meet, and growing our support staff to an infinity level was not something we really wanted to consider. We said, what can we do with technology that enables our customers to have a great experience and helps us meet our business needs? And so through that, we started to say, what would success look like? And success is obviously 24/7, always on, correct answers as fast as can be, providing this level of information and resources and services to our customers in the exact manner that they want to access and get service and support. And we also looked at this technology-based solution, and we said, whatever we decide to implement, it has to be simple enough that we as NetApp can take on our own. Right? While we want to partner and work with folks to learn, it has to be something that our team will take on and continue to run with. And the end goal we were really looking for, kind of the ultimate success point that we really wanted to look at, was we needed to be able to provide more time to our support engineers to give that human-to-human value-add interaction. And through that, what we decided and what we came to our conclusion was that there's a high volume of low complex questions and problems that our support team receives day in and day out that we thought we could find an interesting solution to. So moving that high volume, low complexity issue off the table and give those answers as fast as can be through interesting technology innovations allowed us to free up time that our support engineers could then give back to human value-add relationships. And that's what we said success would be as we went down this journey. And through that, brought us to our implementation of Elio. Elio with Watson. Elio is our virtual support assistant. It's with Watson, powered by IBM Watson.
So
Elio is...
Stop.
Yeah.
I need to understand here. I did ask you this before, and I'd like you to tell the audience. How did you come up with Elio? I mean, I can see him sitting by his monitor there. Tell me the history of Elio.
Absolutely. I love this. Thanks. So Elio is our persona for our virtual support assistant. As you may go down the line, and the way I kind of tell the story and present it here is, it's a story of what we at NetApp went through, and I believe it's a story anyone listening or thinking of as they might get into this avenue. These are thought points that you'll have to go through as well. When you decide you're going to build a virtual support assistant, you have your first decision is, are we going to impersonate a human, or are we going to come out and clearly say this is a virtual support assistant, it's a computer-based solution? We chose a virtual support assistant that's computer-based, and we wanted to make that very relevant. The reason we did that is, as us as humans, as we interact with support or with people, we might use slang when we do human-to-human conversation, but human to computer, we're very straightforward. And so that actually increases accuracy. So that was the first decision of, are we going to build a human-like or a computer-like? So we went computer-like. Elio was SolidFire's mascot. Elio was part of SolidFire. And through the acquisition of SolidFire by NetApp, Elio joined NetApp. Elio's had a fantastic time representing SolidFire, really being the persona to go forward with that represents SolidFire as a business and a company. Elio now has a new job at NetApp, and Elio's job is NetApp's first responder of technical support. Yeah, so that's kind of the background of Elio and who Elio is and why Elio is here today.
I just love the fact you got promoted. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah. There's a lot of people within NetApp that love Elio. I do as well. A little side fun, Elio is represented with socks. If you haven't heard, NetApp has Elio socks. SolidFire's had them. We have them at NetApp now, and we'll continue.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you for that background.
You're welcome. Always have fun. If you're not having fun, you're probably doing it wrong, is a little mantra we go. So Elio is our virtual support assistant, first responder to technical support assistance. Whether you're opening up a web case or starting a technical support chat, Elio's there. Elio's on 24/7, scales out to 1 to tens of thousands of parallel conversations. And the one thing we've done with Elio is, obviously Elio's in line where folks are asking for help. If Elio resolves the issue, that's great. We have automation in line where Elio understands the question, provides an answer. When it's resolved, automation to create that case and store that chat transcript for future reference. If Elio is unable to resolve it, or the customer still wants to continue and talk to a human engineer, Elio frames the issue and routes it in line to that next best engineer to continue working the issue. So Elio's in line. It's not an end of the road with Elio. We built Elio in line. And then the last thing, just like anyone else in the NetApp support team, Elio doesn't just get on the job and then we let him fly. Elio's always learning, just like everyone else across the support team. Elio's learning every day with a team of engineers that work really closely to feed Elio. And so, our thought process with Elio and our technical support, our virtual support assistant, was in line. Be where folks are asking for help and assistance. And so today, access to Elio and NetApp technical support chat can be done on the support site. By accessing chat, you'll chat with Elio. Within the NetApp Active IQ product, which is our telemetry and analytics system, start a chat with Elio. And in product, down on the bottom of the screen here, we have a screenshot from ONTAP 9.3 On-Command System Manager, the interface to manage ONTAP. Start a technical support chat from within the product itself and interact with Elio directly. So as you're thinking about provisioning and taking action on product, you can ask Elio a question and stay right within the same interface of managing ONTAP. And then on the right, the ActiveIQ mobile app. Right? Through the mobile app, you can start a chat, and you can chat with Elio directly there as well. And all of these integration points are linked up to directly into our case system that if Elio can't resolve it and you'd like to continue talking to a human support engineer, it's in line and we pass right along. So I kind of want to address this question. This is a joint presentation with SNIA and IBM Watson team and Robin. I've got this question of, Ross, why IBM Watson? There's plenty of marketing and awareness of other solutions that could be used. Why IBM Watson? And probably things to consider that we thought of that might be interesting for anyone else in this thought process is, these are three areas we looked at. The first was investment security. Will your investment, the partner you choose to work with, will they be around in a couple years? That was the first thing we thought of. The second area that became interesting was data management. At NetApp, we love data. Data is the lifeblood of Elio. Data is the lifeblood of some would say most everything. Data management. Do you have control of your data? Can you see where your data is? Do you have the availability to move data where it needs to be at the right time? And with the IBM Cloud, data management is very important. With the IBM Cloud, there's certainly interesting capabilities to move data from NetApp on-premises through the data fabric to the IBM Cloud as needed. And then data security. Very important to us at NetApp, to the world. Data security is very important, and kind of the use case here that we looked at with IBM Cloud is this is our data. All interactions with Watson are anonymized. It is absolutely NetApp's data, and it's only anonymous information that's shared with IBM Watson. So kind of 3 points that are thought of. You may want to consider those as you go forward and think about interesting solutions. So kind of getting down to the details of what we did, how did we use Watson, and how does Elio learn specifically? Elio is data-driven. We've trained Elio on hundreds of thousands of historical technical support cases, anonymized, and we've categorized those. The process goes, we have our data, well tagged but very much unstructured, and we used interesting Watson capabilities. We used some natural language understanding capabilities to assist us in categorizing this data, grouping it into questions and problems. And then out of those groups, we looked into those groups of questions and problems to identify the intent. What is the action being requested out of those cases? So this is really the process we used as we take hundreds of thousands of cases, look through what is the action being requested in these groups of organized cases. And then out of those questions, then we extract out, well, what's the entity? What is the product or feature that the question is about? And then with that, we find interesting sets of answers that we want to train Elio on to answer those questions. Right? So it starts with hundreds of thousands of questions, doing interesting categorizations to train on, and then letting Elio be aware of very interesting answer sets to use to answer those questions. And the training process goes through, and it's a few weeks of time to identify data, and then waves of training till we find we're hitting success rates. The output really ends up looking like something at the bottom of the screen here. And here's an example of a common question that Elio may receive, and what Elio does to process it using some of the Watson conversation APIs. So an example question may be, NetApp auto support stopped working on my cluster. The last notification we received was in January. Elio's going to start to break this down, and the first thing Elio's going to look for is the intent. What is the action here? And in this case, stopped working. Elio will start to recognize that to say, I think the intent here is something about stopped working. Maybe Elio would map that to an intent similar to make it work. And then relative to where that intent is in the sentence, Elio's going to look for an entity, a product or a feature in our use of entities. what product or feature, Elio's going to ask, what product or feature do we think this question is about? Here, Elio's going to see auto support relative to the intent and recognize, well, auto support is a product or feature similar to a product or feature I know. So my guess is, my assumption is that the question is, I need to make auto support work again. So that's kind of some logic Elio's going to do through understanding the question. And then there's other interesting bits here that Elio might use. The potentially relevant information is the last notification received in January. With that interesting information, Elio might change the answer based on relevant information, right? So as an example, Elio could have an answer of, well, I don't think you've ever had auto support up and running, so I'm going to tell you exactly how to turn it on for the first time. Or this other relevant information might point Elio towards, okay, you had it running once and now it stopped working. I think my best action is to guide you through a troubleshooting scenario, and we'll check a couple common failure points of auto support working. But this is how Elio is going to break that sentence down using natural language processing, the understanding, and then the reasoning kicks in to figure out what's the best answer. This is really how Elio learns. We train it, and how Elio used that training to bring answers to questions. And so with that, that's an interesting bit of turning on Watson Conversation Service, AI here. There's training. You have to have data, and you train your solution with that data. There's another aspect of an artificial intelligence solution here with a virtual support assistant. There's training, but then there's also sustaining. And this is where we look at it, how does Elio keep learning? And this is our sustaining loop that we have in place. We have a team that maintains Elio, and every interaction with Elio is measured and understood. Over time, Elio gets more successful with correct answers, and with unsuccessful answers, that's when our team of support engineers and business analysts at NetApp step in and help Elio learn. And every interaction is analyzed to understand, did Elio understand the question? If not, maybe we have to retrain Elio on a trend that he's not understanding well. Perhaps Elio understood the question extremely well, but the answer he gave wasn't as good as could be. So potentially the action from our sustaining team is to go update answer content or create answer content. Perhaps the answers that we have available to Elio just aren't good enough. And so that's an action our team might take, is update answer content or create new answer content. And then that loop continues, right? Retrain Elio with natural language understanding information, and retrain Elio with additional answers that are beneficial that could be used. And that loop continues. And that's how Elio continues to keep learning. So stepping back and really looking at the architecture of Elio, I wanted to share this to show that Elio is, as Robin noted, Elio is a hybrid cloud solution, where in blue we have NetApp on-premises, and then in orange is the IBM Cloud portion of Elio. So the web services support site access on the left is how entry points into Elio occur. Then we have authentication and authorization all taking place on NetApp on-premises. Interactions with NetApp Business Services, as we said, interactions with Elio continue on to create a case and store that record, or continue on to a live chat with a support engineer. And then the user interface and the integration layers into IBM Watson are in the IBM Cloud. And the answer content that Elio has available to serve up as answers, as interesting information and recommendations, majorly lives on NetApp on-premises. That is our answer content, our knowledge-based content, our white papers, our technical reports, and our product documentation and doc center guides. Although that's not the limit of what Elio could have for answer content, we scope what Elio should be using as answers to make sure Elio is providing that best recommendation that we at NetApp want the answer to be. And this is that architecture that exists, NetApp on-premises and the IBM Cloud. And then, kind of looping back to how's Elio performing, we went live with Elio on our as a virtual support assistant in September of 2017. Since that go-live date, Elio has gone through bi-weekly sustaining releases where we retrain Elio on new content, new product features. Elio now is our first responder for technical support questions across all of Data ONTAP software. So whether a question comes in via a technical support chat or on the website via web case or even on the phone, our support engineers have Elio online as well. So as a phone call comes in, our support engineers are interacting with Elio to get that answer as fast as can be. And then, of course, via the website chat and web case opening, Elio is our first responder. So how is Elio doing? Elio is always on, been live, and Elio's been working 24/7 since September 22nd, 2017. New topics are learned weekly through releases. Demand spikes have been absolutely not a problem. From one interaction at a time to thousands at the same moment. Scaling on demand is how we built the architecture out. And then, of course, omni-channel, no matter what path you want to get to Elio, Elio's there for you. And we are seeing incredible business value add where our support engineers are have had thousands of hours given back to them to increase that value add human-to-human interaction as we've removed the high volume, low complexity cases out of the workflow, and Elio's being a value add partner to our business. And so I want to end with this as a conversation point. I get asked, hey, is Elio just a search engine? Is that what Elio is? And I knowing the technology and how Elio works behind the scenes, across my team at NetApp, we have search, we have SEO, and we have Elio. Elio is not a search engine. And this screenshot really starts to bring it forward. While there's interesting training that can be done with search engines to bubble up answers to the top, the key difference that we look at with Elio is our first responder to technical support assistance. And when you have a question, Elio is going to give you the best recommended answer that he's learned and that he's been trained from by subject matter experts at NetApp. Elio gives the best recommendation. Where search is still incredibly valuable and important, search will bring forward all possible answers. Elio is going to make that best recommendation. And that's really where we look at the difference between search and Elio. There's a place for both, and Elio's fitting an incredible need that we have and doing a great job. So that's kind of my story I want to tell about at NetApp, what we've done with IBM Watson so far, and how Elio's doing, our virtual support assistant. Good little robot. He certainly likes to work a lot, and we're fine with that. Cool.
Thank you, Ross. That was very entertaining. And my questions for you, because I've got a few, I'm going to ask one from the audience because I know you don't want to answer this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Can you provide us with Elio's effectiveness in correctly answering a technical question?
Yeah, so what I can say, there's really two data points we're going to talk about. So I'll get to the point. We're not going to say publicly Elio's success rate. He is beating our expectations. We did prototypes, and we brought those prototypes out to customers and partners. Elio's beating our expectations, what we learned from those prototypes since go live. And another data point that's very interesting, Elio is resolving our issues about 4 times faster than we were seeing when we did A/B testing without Elio. And we do have thousands of hours that we've measured that we're able to give back to the business because Elio is there working our job. The effectiveness rate is something we're going to keep close to our chest. It's interesting for us, but Elio is absolutely beating our expectations. Yeah.
So I suppose the summary answer is 4 times as fast.
Yep,
and
that's right.
Very effective. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it.
That's right.
Good. Thank you. That's excellent. So I'm going to move on now. We're going to talk a little with Robin about AI beyond support, because I think one of the things that that NetApp recognized, and certainly I recognize from talking to other people, is vast amounts of data out there. Some of it interesting in interesting ways that I hadn't thought of. So, Robin, if you could take us through some of the the kind of things where you think AI on these, and the machine learning on these data types and how Watson can help as we move forward?
Absolutely. So we spent a good portion of today's discussion focusing on AI in the support space, specifically in the technical support space. Understanding that everyone on the call today may or may not be focusing on that space themselves, I think we wanted to share very simply two high-level use cases or opportunity areas, not just for AI, but really for advanced analytics. There are petabytes upon petabytes of data that are being created every day. Now, within an enterprise themselves, maybe terabytes of terabytes being created every day, and that data holds a lot of value. So when you look at this first use case, which is all around detecting liabilities and mitigating risks, especially in the cloud space or in the data security space or in the storage space, you can imagine the value of all that data that is being stored, whether it be within the data center or on premises. So how do you use AI, or perhaps how do you use advanced analytics to assist in detecting liabilities and mitigating risks? Imagine, if you will, training an AI system, whether it's something like Watson Discovery or another available service in the marketplace, training that data to read and understand specific anomalies or specific reason codes or warning messages, whatever it may be that would allow users to preemptively detect liabilities, for example, cybersecurity liabilities, or detect potential failures in a data center. This really crosses into the advanced analytics space in many respects, but we find that there's an immense value in mitigating that risk by using these types of AI or advanced analytics technologies to constantly monitor systems for irregularities that could indicate an attack or could indicate a loss in performance. But all this information allows users to better manage, in this particular example, their data centers, better manage their infrastructure, allowing them to preempt these types of perhaps downtime situations that can lead to temporary or permanent loss of data. So that's just one example. To give you one final flavor before we wrap up today's webcast, imagine leveraging not just software-generated information, but hardware-generated information. So allowing a system like Watson or another solution in the marketplace to monitor the condition of your systems and equipment, and then alert you to specific disruptions. Not only are we talking AI services in the cloud, but leveraging IoT data. This gets a little bit further out of the scope of the use case we've discussed today and further out into the IoT space. Again, the average cost of data center downtime has increased by 46% over the last 6 or 7 years, and companies are feeling that pain. They're feeling the draw from that. And with solutions combining IoT sensors, combining the power of AI and advanced analytics, it allows engineers, technicians, in real time to monitor crucial components without disrupting service. Again, these are just two very simple use cases. Really, I think we hope that the takeaway that as an audience you take today is there is a lot of opportunity for AI. Every enterprise has its own pain points, its own areas of opportunities. AI, advanced analytics, may or may not be the solution to all of those. But as you can see, hopefully from the story at NetApp, as well as some of the information that we shared today, there is certainly an opportunity for AI to be leveraged in your enterprises. So with that, thank you. Alex, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you very much, Robin. I've actually got a question for either of you can answer. Let's start with Ross, because I think this is a really good question. What has been NetApp's customer reaction to Elio? Ross.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's actually something we thought a lot about as we went down this path of would we deploy something like this. And there certainly have been a couple naysayers in public, right, on social media, just a few, in fact. Really the point being, why would we go a route of putting technology in line to do this? But I think the answer really comes to of the customers' reactions are, our customers are using Elio, and they're getting answers, and they're moving on. We're giving the correct answers. The customers are getting what they need. They're getting their answer quickly and correctly, and their issues being resolved. And I think the analysis we've put into it and the customer feedback and responses, it's working. It's in line. We put Elio in line of where they wanted to be, and it's being used. I think the use of a technology and is it adopted is probably the tell of what the reaction is, and it's being used. And I think that's our tell of the reaction is, it's a tool, we're using it, and let's move on. Yep.
Yeah, that's a good point. Robin, in terms of Watson, what's been the conversational piece in particular, what do you think's been IBM's analysis of the reaction to using automated agents to do these conversational tasks?
Yeah, that's again something that we are very interested in assessing in the marketplace. I can tell you more and more. I think I alluded to this towards the start of the conversation. This doesn't simply apply in the chatbot space, but really across our day-to-day jobs, our day-to-day on our jobs. We see that users are expecting to have the same experience they have in their personal lives when they're browsing online, shopping, finding information. They expect that same ease in their professional lives. Virtual agents are growing. In fact, they grew at the highest rate we've seen last year. Granted, it is a very new technology. And more people are becoming comfortable. I hate to say this, but the millennial generation is now the largest, or becoming the largest in the workplace. That is a generation that is more and more willing to interact with and utilize virtual agents and interact with technology rather than, on the phone or directly with a human. So we found that this technology is becoming adopted as long as it's implemented in a way such that it augments your day-to-day, that it augments a particular workflow, that it provides you the information you need in a more optimized, more effective way, then that is where we've seen the greatest success. And here at NetApp, we believe we've accomplished that goal.
Thank you very much. That's very good. And just on a personal note, I would point out that I actually once thanked Siri for giving me the right answer to a question, to which she replied, "You're welcome, Alex." So it's almost a human interaction. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for attending our webcast today. Thanks to Robin and Ross for their excellent presentation on IBM's Watson and NetApp's Elio. If you could rate this webcast in the way we'd love you to. Just rate us on a scale of 1 to 5. 1, we should go on and play golf. 5, excellent. Let's hear more of this. And put any comments that you wish in the feedback as well. This webcast will be on the SNIA Cloud Storage website on demand. You can see it there, SNIA.org. It's a bit of a long-winded one. But basically, if you go to SNIA.org, Forum CSI Knowledge Webcasts, and you'll be able to get a replay of this. Failing that, you go to Bright Talk and actually search on it directly. The Q&A from this webcast will be posted out to the SNIA Cloud website, sniacloud.com, and you can follow us on Twitter at SNIA Cloud. So thank you very much indeed, both to Ross and Robin. Thank you very much to our audience today, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.